getting started on time. We'll try to do better. I'd like to call the Midwest City Municipal Council agenda, or call the council to order. Opening business, we first will have the invocation by Reverend Michael Snell, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Moore. If you'd stand with me, please.
First of all, just as a citizen here, I'd just like to thank all of you all for your time and your willingness to serve. I know you do a lot, and you don't get a lot of thanks sometimes. But I, for one, and the community just appreciate you for all that you do and the extra time that you spend getting everything together. So I thank you for that first. Almighty God, as we come and we gather in this place, we are mindful that you are in all places. And as we come as a community, we come from many different backgrounds, some different backgrounds of faith, different groups of ethnicity, different economic places. But in the midst of that, we recognize that you have created us and that we are not to look at those and others, but the groups of us and we, that we are your called community. And so we ask that you might continue to guide these leaders in their willingness to serve, that they might have a mindset that is not limited to their own, but open to the possibilities for Midwest City. We thank you for the blessings that you have provided and that you continue to provide. For it's in your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have a proclamation, and it says, whereas May 16th, 2015 is the 5th Kids to Park Day organized and launched by the National Park Trust, and whereas Kids to Parks Day encourages a large and diverse group of children and adults from across the country to go outdoors and visit America's parks, and whereas due to the overall decline in park attendance over the last decade, and it is important to introduce new generations to our nation's parks and ensure appreciation for nature and the outdoors, and whereas we should encourage children to lead a more active lifestyle to combat the issues of childhood obesity and many other preventable illnesses and diseases plaguing our nation's youth. Now, therefore, I, J.D. Collins, Mayor of the City of Midwest City, Oklahoma, do hereby proclaim Saturday, May 16th to be Kids to Parks Day, and encourage citizens to take their children in their lives to a neighborhood, state, or national park. In witness thereto, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the honored seal of the City of Midwest City, Oklahoma, to be affixed this 12th day of May in the year of our Lord, 2015. Great proclamation there for the parks. We all get out and hope the weather's good enough and the water's not too high, and we'll have a great day in the park on Saturday. Other announcements?
I have two announcements, both beer related. I don't know how that happened, but the Chamber is hosting Business and Brews on May the 14th. That's a social and business networking event. They still have some spots left for that. And then May the 30th, I'm incredibly excited about the Midwest City Beer and Wine Festival. Should be a good time, so everyone come out and participate in those events.
Okay, on a more fundamental level, sanitation service for Memorial Day, Monday Memorial Day will occur on Wednesday of next week, and for all of those of you that want to use the transfer station on Saturday, it will be open as well. Swimming pool will open on May 23rd, and this Friday is the end for the early bird special for the pool passes. And I'm also told that we desperately need lifeguards. So anybody that's looking for a summer job that's got those skills, please come see us. I'd also like to announce that we made a selection for our new fire chief. We have selected Mr. Bert Norton. Bert was sworn in as a Midwest City firefighter in June of 2001. He began his fire service career with the Harrah Fire Department in 1994. Since his time with Midwest City Fire Department, Bert has served in every rank up to Rideout Major. Bert has spent years working towards being a chief officer through earning a bachelor's of technology degree in emergency responder administration from Oklahoma State University in Oklahoma City. He is credentialed as a fire officer by the Center for Public Safety Excellence. Bert has successfully completed the Blue Card Command Training System recently adopted by the city. He's been an active member of numerous state and national professional associations, serving multiple committees and boards throughout his fire career. Bert and his wife, Melody, and their 3 children are extremely excited about this new opportunity. Bert will begin taking on his new role as on June 4th, and will work alongside Chief Matheny until his retirement, which will take place on July 6th of this year. So we're very excited to have Bert on board.
Thank you very much. Any other announcements?
I have one more.
Okay.
Sorry. Sales tax for the month of May. We actually saw another decrease in comparison to last year. Sales tax was down 37,000 and change. Use tax was actually up 9,500 and change. So for the month, we were about 27,000 on the in the red. For the year, that puts us 708,000 compared to the same period last year through May. We'll basically have one more check before we start the new fiscal year. So at this point, we're 708,000 behind last year. Compared to our projection, because we did anticipate that we would experience some fall off in revenue, actually are 164,000 below what we projected to be. So we always like to be on the other side of the equation, but it is what it is. So shop Midwest City.
And I see on the screen, third bullet statement is Midwest City firefighters help women finish Memorial Marathon.
Yes,
And
Christine
that
asked
was a
that
great
we
thing. You bet.
put that on there, so
And,
absolutely.
everybody saw that on Facebook about 15 times, I'm sure, but it was a nice touch, and we're honored to have those gentlemen serving the community of the Midwest City. Next item is item C, consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so that members of the City Council, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any item proposed on the consent agenda does not meet with the approval of all the council members or members of the audience wish to discuss the proposed item with the council, that item will be removed and heard in regular order.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item D1, discussion, consideration, and presentation by the Association of Central Oklahoma Governments concerning the status of the Regional Transit Dialogue's work on commuter rail and other forms of public transportation. In the audience this evening with us is John Johnson, the Executive Director of ACOG. I think he'll has a presentation that he's going to give us on many of the pieces of work that the Regional Transit Dialogue has been involved with.
That's quite a title for an agenda item. Honorable Mayor and Council, thank you very much for the
How'd
opportunity.
you get something sideways like that? Did you get it while it was falling?
Well, I'm not going to respond or be critical of the photographer, and that's supposed to be to get your attention, and it worked, you see. So that's all I'll say about that. But I appreciate the opportunity to be here very much, and I'm going to take just a very few minutes of your time. You'll never get back, but I think it's important that you know the general status report of what's been going on this big project for the region and your part in it. I'm very grateful for the leadership and the participation of Midwest City for Eastern Oklahoma County. You know, the region stretches to Guthrie, to Slaughterville, out to Yukon, El Reno, but I think I see Midwest City as the anchor for eastern Oklahoma County, and they're one of the legs of the corridor that we're going to talk about. So I've got some visual images that I want to share with you, which are really as much to give you context about why we're even asking these questions. What are we doing thinking about regional high-capacity transit for central Oklahoma? Because most people's definition in Oklahoma for congestion is taking your foot off of the accelerator. But that is not always going to be the case here. And we are rapidly approaching a situation where we need alternatives to automobiles on the road. So Mr. Harless is going to help click through for me. It's important that you know the landscape. You know, really for central Oklahoma, we're about 6 counties. We're 37 cities. We've got a lot of jobs. We've got a 1.2 million in population, and we have grown since 2000 at historic rates. So the next slide is going to show that we're going to have, and we know, more people, which can be a good thing because more jobs follows that. But with more jobs comes, guess what? More traffic, more vehicles. Everybody's got that single occupancy vehicle they're traveling around on our highway system. So with more vehicles, air quality becomes a regional issue, not just for Midwest City or for the west side, it's for the entire region. And there are known regional transit needs, certainly in central Oklahoma and most of the cities. So we have to think about a project which would involve more than one city being able to expand. And to give you a little bit of the national perspective, this is a map of cities, some of which are our peer cities, are regions that we have to compete with on an economic development basis, and what they're doing to start regional transit systems. And you hear that term multimodal, that's kind of the bus, the rail, the streetcar, can be light rail. It depends on what the needs of the region are, but the purpose is to get a whole lot of people in those vehicles and get them off the highways. So what we have looked at here, we've completed a specific commuter corridor study to look at 3 corridors. And the north-south corridor is really Norman to Edmond. But I want to just show you, if you look across sort of the short spectrum of who some cities are that we would either want to emulate or who would be peer cities, this is how much money they're investing in their regional transit system. And sadly, but accurately, we're at the bottom of that list. And it's the lesson that you sort of get what you pay for, which shows how that money translates into vehicle on the street compared to our region. And the next one, if you got more vehicles, you got more people getting on the vehicles and riding them. So Denver is probably, and this is a picture from Denver, of the most robust system sort of west of the Mississippi that has a culture not unlike central Oklahoma. And we're hopeful for, you know, transit-oriented development where there are stations, and there will be stations in Midwest City. So that's a good thing. I want to let you know that we haven't been just starting this last year or the year before. This project has been underway since 2005. And this is a list of some of the things that we've actually accomplished. And last year the legislature passed, and I'm thankful we did it last year and not this year. It probably wouldn't have passed. House Bill 2480, which granted us the authorization to have these multi-jurisdictional groups hold hands to form a regional transit authority and allow us to create a taxing mechanism to pay for this regional transit. Now the commuter corridor study, these are the 6 original partners plus ACOG, and all of these people put time, money, and energy into where we are today, and we would not have been here without this group. And Midwest City, again, leading from the east in this group. And the corridor study, the results, that's completed, so we know at least what the recommendation is going to be for those three legs, which would be Oklahoma City to Edmond, Oklahoma City to Norman, and Oklahoma City to Midwest City and Tinker Air Force Base. And I'd be happy to field questions. I don't want to take too much time, but I brought with me executive summaries of that commuter corridor study. If you have appetite and want to drill down, there's a lot more information. So I'll leave those with you, and at your leisure, you can look at those if you like. But I wanted to be able to answer your questions and kind of what the next steps are. And the next steps for the group, this group of 6, is to form a task force where we can decide what is the governance structure going to be for this regional transit authority. Who's going to sit on that board? Who's going to call the shots? All of that moving towards some sort of an election, probably in 17 or 18, to create the funding mechanism, because this is an intense capital and operations project, and it's a little bit of sticker shock for us because of the size of what we have to do over the region. And it's not something we've done, so it can be a little bit, I would say, awkward for some of the cities to hold hands, to have trust, for us to have credibility, and for us to be willing to go forward. So we'll take those steps slowly and everybody on board, but ultimately we're going to have to ask the people of this region to vote to tax themselves for this kind of a transit system. So again, I'll shut up and answer any questions you might have, if any. Thank you very much for your time. This is not the type of project that this region has undertaken. So to say it's difficult is probably a best case description, but I know that we can get through it because I think, at least at the meetings I've attended, this is what people believe will be best for the future for our citizens in this region. And we have to just think a little longer term in terms of a transit project than we would to build a road. So any questions? Again, thank you very much.
So, ballpark in here, how long is it gonna take to get it all done?
How long
Your
is it
probably
go-
least favorite question, I would imagine.
before you can buy a ticket to
Yeah.
ride the train? My projection is 2025.
Cool.
And again, that's sort of 10 years out, which means we're sort of halfway through where we've been going. But the hinge for that 2025, there's a timeline of things that have to happen before we can do that. And the big one is whether the region citizens would vote to tax themselves, and in what fashion.
Gotcha.
But I think for planning purposes, in our discussions, our vision's 2025.
I'm excited. I ride the Dart when I'm down in Dallas. It's awesome, so look forward to it.
One of the things that I handed out kind of gave you what the plan's going to be over the next 3 years, and so just keep that in mind over the next, not maybe this year, but the next 2 years in the budget process. So, but that's what it'll take to get us to that point where we have collectively agreed as to how we should try to govern something like this, because everybody's different. I participated in some of that study, and it's everybody's different. There has to be I don't think you can take one model and say, okay, we're going to do it just like they did it, because it just doesn't work that way, because each region's got its own peculiarities. So, but that's what it'll cost us to get us to that to that point when we get to, I guess, pull the lever and decide whether we're gonna do it or not, so.
Exactly. And the core cities that are at the front leading are gonna kinda have to bear the freight for that for 1, 2, or 3 years till we can see if we can get others within the region who need to be at the table to also bring their funds to help support it. And it'll be important for every city because you have sales tax initiatives that are gonna renew or you're gonna wanna start. And the interplay of all of those cities and how that might impact a regional vote, we're gonna have to have consideration for. So,
And John, you are making these similar presentations through
Yes.
to everyone else?
absolutely. Road warrior. And no one's thrown tomatoes yet, so I'm thankful. Because, you know, it's nice to think about these things coming to fruition, but it really is just gonna take a long time. And, you know, not all of us may see that, but we can be hopeful, and we have to do it. I think for my grandkids to ride the train, that's what I'm in it for.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Is there plans, future plans for this to go on to the airport from Oklahoma City?
I would say the short answer is yes. There are 10 total corridors that we originally studied in 2005. And the 3 that we've looked at and studied more intensively are to Norman, to Edmond, and to Midwest City. But certainly the west, out the I-40 corridor and out to the airport, Northwest Highway. Other
Having-
places where you would logically expect there to be population, employment concentrations, that's where we're gonna go. But that group that's governing this regional transit authority, they'll make those decisions about who's next.
Having gone to Chicago and places like that, seeing conference travelers and things, you know, getting to the other towns to go attend their conferences and stuff. I was just curious because that would be a way to get our conference attendees to the right areas.
Right, tourism is a big aspect of regional
Mhm.
transit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Part of the skeleton to this, though, is a greatly enhanced bus network that will get you from the station to where you need to go. So it's not just commuter rail, so.
Right. The rail is the sexy part of the project, and that's what sells pretty easily with people. But the core is truly gonna be an enhanced and robust bus service. Kind of get you to that last mile or get you home and get you to work. So, and I believe the bus service really will come on early at the front end because the rail's the biggest price tag and you've got to negotiate with, you know, the Class 1 railroads. And until we have money in hand, they won't talk to us about leasing their tracks. So again, thank you, Mayor. I'm sure I'll be back, but, and if you have any questions, just send them through Guy and we'll get you some answers.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much, sir. Do we need any action on that? Okay, no actions required. Do we need anything on further information? Okay. Further information's in your packet. You've all had a chance to look at that. We don't need anything on that. Next item, oops, I jumped over new business or public discussion. Is there any new business or public discussion for the city council? Okay. Name and address.
Glenn Goldschlager, 1409 Evergreen Circle, Midwest City. I'd just like to recognize the street department and the parks department for what a great job they did after the rains we've had. They got the trees that were knocked down cleaned up. They got our roads cleaned up. We've got wonderful people. There's very few of them, and they did an incredible job of quickly getting the city cleaned up after this. You couldn't even tell it rained. And on that same subject, I'd like to say something about community development. We pride ourselves in this country that when bad things happen, people don't die. You get a lot of rain in a third world country, hundreds, maybe thousands of people will drown. Here, we didn't even have a house flooded. And that doesn't happen by accident. I know a lot of people get upset with community development. They make you put up a retention pond. They make you They won't let you build in a floodway. They won't let you do this and they won't let you do that. They're all mean, rotten people, except when you get 8 inches of rain in 3 days, and all of a sudden everything works the way it was supposed to. And it did. It worked the way it was supposed to. And sometimes no news is good news. And that no news came because of a lot of work from a very few people. So I'd like to recognize our community development for how well they've prepared this city for disasters. And that's exactly what happened last week. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other new business or public discussion for the council?
Move to adjourn.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Call to order the Midwest City Municipal Authority. Consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so that the trustees of the Midwest City Municipal Authority, by unanimous consent, can approve routine items in one motion. If any item proposed on the consent agenda does not meet with the approval of all trustees or members of the audience wish to discuss a proposed item with the council, that item will be removed and heard in regular order.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. New business or public discussion for the Midwest City Municipal Authority. Any new business or public discussion for the Midwest City Municipal Authority? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Call to order the Midwest City Memorial Hospital Authority. Consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so that the trustees of the Midwest City Municipal Authority, Memorial Hospital Authority, by unanimous consent can approve the routine agenda items in one motion. If any item proposed on the consent agenda does not meet with the approval of all the trustees or members of the audience wish to discuss proposed item with the council, that will be removed and heard in regular order.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second motion.
Have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item C, new business or public discussion. Is there any new business or public discussion for the Midwest City Memorial Hospital Authority?
We have an executive
We do
session.
have an executive session.
That is discussion, consideration of one entering into executive session as allowed under 25 OS Section 307 C10 to confer on matters pertaining to economic development, including the transfer of property, financing, or creation of a proposal to entice a business to remain or to locate within the city, and 2, an open session authorizing action as appropriate based upon the discussion in executive session.
Move to go to executive session.
Second motion.
Motion and a second to adjourn to executive session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's the last item on the agenda. We'll be back, but there won't be any further action.